morning I am going to take one of your questions. This was written in on the comments from a previous AMA, which stands for Ask Me Anything series, by the way. It was written by Joseph Rosenberger, who wrote, "Any chance Darren has or will do a series on finding the balance between being too hard on yourself and owning your mistakes?" Okay, that's a good question, Joseph, because there is a critically important distinction to make here. On our A team, we practice what is called extreme ownership, which also happens to be the title of a book written by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. For us, this is what's called taking 100% responsibility for every outcome. No story, no excuses, no justifications. The outcome is your responsibility by either what you did or maybe by what you didn't do but could have done. Or by the reaction to what happened to you. Either way, in every circumstance, own it. All of it. As Jim Rohn would say, it's a small box. Maybe I should tell you that story. So, a guy is newly hired as a salesman. On his first week, his job is to make 10 sales calls. At the end of the week, the sales manager calls him in and asks, "How many sales calls did you make?" The guy says, "Well," and the sales manager cuts him off and says, "Well won't fit in my little box here. I just need a number." Then the salesman launches into a story. Once again, the sales manager interrupts him and says, Hey, the reason why we made the box so small is so that a story wouldn't fit. Trust me, if you give me the number, I'll know the story." That's why we are often reminding each other here on the A team, it's a small box. Just give us the number. You either did it or you didn't. No story is needed. Own it. Now, the critical difference between being too hard on yourself and owning your mistake is the difference between blame and responsibility. Blame makes you a victim. You're telling yourself that you are not in charge, not in control. "It's all my fault," you tell yourself, which is disempowering and defeating. You render yourself powerless. Responsibility, on the other hand, is taking your power back, regaining control. You take the action necessary to correct your mistakes. You make it right. That's taking responsibility. Blame removes hope. Responsibility gives you hope back. Now, let me give you one other critical distinction here. The difference between being your fault and being your responsibility. It's not your fault that your father or mother was abusive, or alcoholic, or inattentive to, or over-attentive. But it is now your responsibility to make your own life and not repeat the patterns of your childhood. It is not your fault that you got hit by a drunk driver, was raped or sexually abused, contracted cancer, fell off a horse and broke your neck. What happens to you is not your fault. But as soon as it does, it now becomes your responsibility for how you're going to react, respond, and handle what has happened to you. That doesn't mean that it's easy. By no means. But if you are going to get your power back, you have to take responsibility for how you react to what's happened to you. So Joseph and everybody else, I really do hope you understand the big difference between beating yourself up for making a mistake, which only debilitates and defeats you, and taking responsibility, which re-empowers you and puts you back in control. Then you're able to pursue better every day from that point forward. So tell us, what have you been blaming yourself for that you now know you just need to take responsibility for how you react and handle it from this point forward? I look forward to reading your thoughts. And if you have a question that you'd like me to address on a future Darren Daily, you are welcome to write that in the comments below as well. Aren't you supposed to create the comedy on the side here?